Our next featured expert is Dr. Shannyn Pierce, and we're going to discuss surprising reasons you can't lose weight. Dr. Shannyn is a functional doctor, chiropractor, holistic health advocate, and nationally known speaker and educator. She has a passion for women's hormones, thyroid, and autoimmune issues. After being diagnosed with fibromyalgia at a young age, she began her lifelong quest to find non-medical answers to common health issues. Dr. Shannyn is married to her best friend, Dr. Justin Pierce, and they have 2 kids. But in the process of building this amazing life, Dr. Shannyn experienced something a lot of women face: total burnout. And it was from that breakdown that she pivoted her focus to work exclusively with women who want to prioritize their health and create full life freedom by finding their root cause answers. So welcome, Dr. Shannyn. So happy to have you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. You always do such a wonderful job on these summits.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely love having you. Love our talks that we have. And so for those who aren't familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to be doing the work that you're presently doing?
Yeah. So I always joke that I'm an accidental expert. Like, I really wish I didn't have to find out all the things I know now through my own struggles, right? Like so many of us do. I have truly spent my whole life looking for answers to health problems. So I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia when I was 8 years old. By the age of 10, I was on 10 different prescription medications for migraines, for IBS, for pain, for sleep, for skin. My psoriasis was horrible, all of these things. And even to this day, my mom said, like, she keeps apologizing. She's like, I just did what the doctor said to do, right? They said this was wrong, take this medication. And I kept getting worse and worse. And truly, by the time I was about 14, I started looking into alternative things. I started going to a chiropractor. I started looking at nutrition. And from there, I really took the rest of my life trying to figure out, how do I heal myself? And I really wish I could tell you, like, I found 1 or 2 things and it happened really quick and everything was great. But it took a lot of health breakdowns, of emotional breakdowns, of trying a lot of stuff that didn't work to finally figure out, wait a minute, the same process doesn't really work for everybody, right? You have to know what's going on with your body physiologically, and you have to make sure you're doing the right things for your root cause, because exactly what worked for me might not work for you, but it might work for 3 other people. It really comes down to finding your root cause answers. What triggered your health problems? And when you know that, then it gets so much simpler and you don't have to go through nearly as much trial and error as I did. So I have a passion for teaching women how to find their root cause answers so they can make appropriate health decisions for themselves and for their families.
Excellent. That's so awesome. And I can't even imagine at such a young age, 10 medications.
Yeah. And so sick. I believe that's probably what caused my psoriasis, right? My body was freaking out, trying to push it all out through my skin. Like, we don't want all these toxins. I feel like every symptom that popped up, there was a medication as an answer in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, not fun.
And I know someone who is watching right now can completely relate to that, taking a lot of medication. But I'm curious, we're talking about surprising reasons you can't lose weight. So what are these surprising reasons that we can't lose weight?
This is one of my favorite topics. Whenever I do a post about this or a series on social media, it always gets the most responses and people engaged in this. So one of the things that drives me crazy, and I'm certain you teach this to your people as well, is the mainstream media healthcare is still saying, like, it's calories in, calories out, right? It's like, eat less and exercise and you will lose weight. And most of you listening right now, you're like, that's not true. Like, I have done the things, right? I did the diets, I did the increased exercise. And for a lot of women, especially women once we pass about 25 or 30, sometimes that stops working. And it's not age. Let me tell you, that is not the surprising reason. It's not because you're getting older. But there are things that when there are these types of imbalances in our body, it makes it really hard to burn fat, regardless of what you're eating and regardless of how much you're working out. I'm going to tell you the top 3, and I'll tell you signs of what each one might be, so you can start kind of like self-diagnosing, which you probably shouldn't do anyways, but you can start thinking it sounds like you. Don't Dr. Google it. But I think people really like hearing that, oh, wait a minute, it might not just be me, right? It's not, I'm not just lazy. I not just can't lose weight, or the diet didn't fail me. Maybe something really is going on. that I need to look deeper into.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that with people? Do you see that with your people?
Yeah, I do. And you know, like they're did the whole dieting, less calories, moving more, and then they're like, I think I'm doing all the things I should be doing. I'm eating clean, and they are, but it's like, but I can't lose weight, and I feel like I'm getting more fatigued and more fatigued.
Yeah. And it's frustrating, right? It's like, well, why
Mhm.
don't I eat the burger if the burger and the salad give me the same end result, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Here's the premise, and here's what I want everyone to really understand before I tell you the 3 reasons. Your body holds on to weight as a protective mechanism. That is really important to understand. It is a buffer. A lot of times when you have put on pounds, sometimes without feeling like you made any changes, right? I hear that a lot as well. It's like, I didn't change my habits, I didn't change my eating patterns, but I've gained this 20 pounds and I can't lose it. That to me is a red flag that your body did that on purpose, right? What is it trying to protect you from becomes the biggest question you can ask yourself. And if you find that answer and remove whatever it is it's trying to protect you from, your body will go back to a healthy, normal weight, right? That's where it wants to be. But finding the reason is so important. So there are 3 main reasons your body will put on fat. The first one is if you have any type of overgrowth or infection, typically in the gut, right? That's the most common area, but it can also be other chronic infections like Epstein-Barr. I talk a lot about that, viral load, even silly things like you might not correlate it, but if you get cold sores and you might have a herpes virus family, those can be reasons why your body will put on fat because it's brilliant. If you have bacteria or yeast or parasites or virus, your body doesn't want it free circulating, so it gets in your heart, it gets in your lungs, it gets in your brain tissue. So it does something really smart. It makes more fat cells to soak up these overgrowths and these infections to protect you, right? That's its job. It's like, great, if we can trap them in these little jails of fat cells, it's not going to cause more serious problems. So your body puts on 10, 15, 20 pounds, soaks up a bunch of these overgrowths, and you won't lose that weight until you address the overgrowth or infection first, right? You can't
Wow.
force a body to release that. And that
Yeah.
is probably one of the most common reasons that I see. Ways that you can start to figure if this is your root cause or not. Typically, I find that type of weight gain also comes with a pretty significant change in energy, right? Because your body's fighting something off, something's competing for your resources. So if you put on the weight, but you also feel like tired all the time, or darker circles under your eyes, or feeling like everything's just harder to do, right? That was one of the things I felt so often. And my issue was a lot of these chronic infections. Like everything just felt like it took so much more of my effort. At the same time, my body was unwilling to burn fat, right? So those 2 things together, typically you want to start investigating if your root cause is some type of immune system issue, like an overgrowth or an infection. Easiest ways to check for that is to do a comprehensive stool sample. Like everyone always asks, well, how do I know if I have that or not? Check. Do
Yeah.
not just go do a gut cleanse. Do not just go do a detox, right? That stuff drives me nuts. It's like the new thing on TikTok is everyone like telling
Yeah.
everyone to do these parasite cleanses.
Hmm.
Makes my brain want to explode. Like, please don't just go put yourself in a bunch of stuff you don't know that you need to try and kill off stuff you don't know if you have or not, right?
Hmm.
It's always about figuring out your root cause. If those are your signs, test and verify if that is actually what's going on. And then if it is, then you get to make specific steps to get rid of that, right?
So did you hear what she said? Fat gain,
Yes.
weight gain can be a protective mechanism. Something might be going on, and mostly you're talking about the infection potentially.
Yeah, and that's number 1, right? But weight gain, especially unexplained weight gain, is always protection from something. And that is one of the reasons. Reason number 2, and this happens a lot as well, is a hormone imbalance. So what a lot of people don't understand is there are 3 places that your body makes hormones from. And this is true and relevant whether you are a cycling female, perimenopause, postmenopause, hysterectomy. I always get these questions. Well, what if I am postmenopause? What
Yeah.
if I have hysterectomy? The body still works in this way. It makes hormones from 3 places. One is your ovaries and your uterus. So every woman at some point in your life has been making hormones from your ovaries and your uterus. Now, if you are postmenopausal or have had a hysterectomy, then you've removed that piece of the puzzle.
Hmm.
But you still have these other 2. Your adrenal glands primarily, and your fat cells. So it's your ovaries and your uterus, your adrenals, and your fat cells. So your body is brilliant and it will always try and protect you. If you are not making enough hormone from your ovaries and your uterus from any number of things, birth control use, having abnormal cycles, any of those things, if you're not making enough from your adrenal glands, from stress, which every single one of you listening probably has some component of stress in your body. So if you're not making enough from your adrenal glands, what's the one place left that you're making adequate hormones from? Your fat cells. So guess what your body does? Hey, she's not giving it to me from other places. I'm going to go make a bunch more fat cells to keep giving you hormones so you can sustain life, right? It is protecting you from a full-on hormone crash by giving you typically that midsection weight gain, right?
I think a lot of people just learned something right there, that what? Our fat cells produce hormones? What?
At any phase of life, ladies, I don't care what age you are, that's how the body works, right? It's one of those metabolic areas that give you back good hormone balance. So if you are putting on a lot of weight, maybe that fat is helping you balance hormones. The answer to that, right? If you're like, I don't want it to do that, I want it to go away, I don't care. Balance your adrenal glands, right? Especially if you are post-hysterectomy or in menopause and the ovaries and the uterus are not the main issue, your adrenal glands become so important for stress management, for weight maintenance, right? To stay a good and healthy weight. And your adrenal glands have so many other jobs, but mostly it's going to be the adrenal piece of the puzzle for you if this is your issue. If you are still a cycling female, I always recommend checking hormones in the right way, right? There's very specific ways to check hormones, but I feel like every female in every phase of life should know what her hormone balance looks like, because even if you are postmenopausal, you can have hormone imbalance, right? Like you can have abnormal levels of hormone in any phase of life. So I still feel like that's very relevant. But for most women, it's going to come down to adrenal function. If you are getting that hormonal weight gain, adrenal function is a big piece of that.
Wow. And so I'm curious, because I think more people are more aware of the adrenal function issue. But for those who aren't familiar, what goes on with our adrenals and why are we gaining that weight if it's an adrenal issue?
Yeah, there's so many reasons. So one of the things I teach often is it's called the women's health trifecta. There are three pieces, right? It's your adrenals, your thyroid, and your hormones, and they talk together to really balance what's called your HPA axis, the way your brain talks to your thyroid, talks to your hormones, talks to your adrenals, and back up to your brain to keep things nice and balanced, which has majority of the function in metabolism and fat burning and energy and mood and all the wonderful things we want to feel. So if one of those pieces are off, it is going to directly affect the function of the other ones. And because the adrenals get beat up so badly from stress and inflammation and busyness and all the things, typically for most women, that's the thing that starts the cascade even before a thyroid problem. I know most women have been told it's their thyroid. A lot of you listening are probably on thyroid medication, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but something triggered that, right? Something triggered your thyroid to not be properly functioning. And most of the time it started with the adrenal glands because of that stress piece of the puzzle. Now, there are two things that can happen to your adrenals. You can either be producing too much cortisol, which is our stress hormone, and that's really inflammatory, right? Same thing with low hormone. If you're having too much inflammation, this is going to be number 3. If you have too much inflammation, your body's going to make fat cells to soak up that inflammation, right? So cortisol, too much stress, too much cortisol, too much inflammation, the body makes fat cells. However, and I ask this question a lot to women, it's like, do you feel like, just think about yourself, are you someone who's really stressed and you think you have too much cortisol? Or are you somebody who has really low cortisol, low functioning adrenals? And most people think they're going to have high cortisol, right? I'm stressed out, I think I'm going to have high cortisol. But most of the women, and I've tested thousands of women hormone and adrenal panels, they usually have low cortisol, because by the time you get to the point that you want to test, you have run them out, right? Maybe 10 years ago, you were running high cortisol, but you didn't stop. You didn't fix it. And this is me to a T, right? This is exactly what I did. I ran on cortisol and adrenaline for decades until I finally did my proper testing and realized, holy crap, at 28 years old, I had menopausal ranges of progesterone. My cortisol was completely tanked, and I had all of these overgrowths and infections that I had no idea And together that created my major physical burnout, right? For me, it was those three pieces of the puzzle. And those are the same things that can create the weight gain, right? So I would probably guess, right, an educated guess, that you're probably more on the low functioning adrenal side of things, more so than the high cortisol, if you're already feeling the symptoms and the weight gain. That typically comes more with an adrenal insufficiency.
And that makes sense because I see a lot of women, and I say this to my clients too. We women, most of us run at a moderate level of stress, and for us that's normal. And so we don't quote unquote feel like we're stressed until we have a major stress event. So that makes sense that all those years of running at a moderate level of stress, and now our adrenals are going, I'm so tired, I can't do anything right now.
Can't do it anymore. But that's exactly what happens, right? We push them so hard and we don't listen when they're gently whispering, right? Like the fatigue you started feeling 20 years ago, that was sign number one. The little bit of weight gain 5 years after that, that was sign number two, right? Your sleep disturbance about 5 years later, that was sign number three. And then we wait until all of a sudden we're like, I'm exhausted, I'm moody, I've gained 20 pounds, it came out of nowhere. No, we didn't. If you look back the last 20 years, we just didn't take care of ourselves, right? Like I know for me, that was one of those factors. It felt very immediate onset, but looking back, I had set the stage for my body to be so inflamed, overuse of medication, overuse of antibiotics, going too far, too fast all the time, till eventually my body forced me to slow down to protect me. You'll learn this theme from me. Your body is doing everything to protect you, whether you like it or not, weight gain included, but also chronic illness, chronic fatigue. Those are all your body's way of slowing things down because we didn't address something at the onset. We waited until it's become an emergency. And sometimes weight gain can signal that as well. Like there's an emergency in your body, there's a fire. And that's piece number three, is too much inflammation of any source. Your body is saying, holy crap, if this inflammation gets in the liver, if this inflammation gets in the blood vessels, this could be a major health crisis. What do I do? Put on weight, soak up the inflammation, give it a place to go so it doesn't go to your vital organs. So really looking at your lifestyle. And yes, a big part of it's food, right? Are you eating toxins? Are you eating foods that you know aren't good for you? Are you drinking soda? The colors, dyes, sucralose, but I think most people are starting to become aware of that. What about your environment, right? Are you in an environment that might have toxic mold, which in the United States, the statistics are staggering, right? That like 70% of buildings, especially in certain areas of the country, could potentially have things like mold. Are you
And I
using
live in
skincare
Florida,
products
and you see a high incidence of people coming in sick from mold.
from mold? And then we're told like, oh, it's no big deal, or just bleach it, or no, it causes very significant health issues that can cause weight gain, chronic illness, autoimmune disease. I mean, it's highly linked to a lot of those things. Yet I feel like it's one of those things that people just got used to. It's like, oh yeah, we live in an old house, or yeah, we work on a farm, so there's mold in the barns. But no, that's a big deal. That toxicity is going to create major inflammation in the body. So looking at your environment just as much as the food that you're eating becomes really important. And then the things you're putting on your skin and your body, especially for a woman, they are called endocrine disruptors, which means hormone messer-uppers. Like that's literally what that means. But they're everywhere, right? The phthalates, the BPA, they're in our makeup, they're in our hair care products, they're in our lotions. Like we are bombarding ourselves with inflammation every single day, yet we wonder why our body keeps putting on fat cells. We're forcing it to, right? We're giving it all this stuff to have to deal with. So the more of those pieces, the infections and overgrowths, the stress that you're putting on your body and your adrenals, and the toxins in your environment, the more of those you can remove, the less your body will feel like it has to protect you.
Yeah. And I'm curious, what would be like a good first step if there's someone watching here today and they're like, oh, I think I can understand it might be my adrenals, it might be inflammation. What would be like a good first step for them?
Okay, so I think it's a different first step based on which one you think is most relevant to you, right? So if you think you're like, I know it's stress, like clearly that's me, I know exactly that that's my issue. The first thing I love teaching people is you've got to start making boundaries in your day, right? And whatever that looks like for you. And this is one of the first things I had to do for myself. And it was hard, but it made all of the difference because I could have changed my food, took all the supplements, did all the things. But if I didn't start to remove some of my stress from my environment, I don't think I would have got the same healing results that I ultimately did. So looking at your schedule and figuring out, maybe it's as simple as like, I want 20 extra minutes in the morning so I can do a meditation or a breath work, or I'm going to schedule myself an actual lunch midday where I actually take 30 minutes off, right? That's not eating while you answer emails. That's not eating in the car when you run to get the kids. That's 30 minutes you legitimately schedule for you to do something that calms your nervous system, or maybe you protect that last 30 minutes in the evening, wherever it fits in better for you. But I very much believe if you know stress is your deal and that's your issue, 20 to 30 minutes a day of something that calms your nervous system. Meditation, breath work, being outside and doing some grounding, right? Just stand barefoot on the earth, something that calms your nervous system for a minimum of 20 minutes a day makes a huge difference.
I gotta say, grounding is one of my favorite things to do because when I first started to do it, I thought, does this really work? I'm not sure, but I'll try it. And it was almost an immediate, as soon as I
But you
started doing
feel
that.
the
Yeah.
physical release. But
Yeah.
that's a good point, though, is that is the point of when I say nervous system work. It you should feel an immediate release, right? Like you should notice that your body likes what you're doing. Another one I really like is tapping, EFT tapping, and you can find tons of these videos, right? On YouTube, on social media, type in EFT tapping. It's another way just to get your body to calm down. You're touching on these energy points that relaxes your nervous system and takes some of that physical stress off your body, because your stress is going to be there, right? Like we can't take that away. Like life is still going to be there. You need to learn the tools necessary so that you don't get the physical crash of the stress that we're dealing with all the time. And grounding, tapping, meditation, breath work, those are all 4 beautiful tools to do that. Ready for
Awesome.
more? Am I fully overwhelming you?
I was just gonna say, no, you're not overwhelming. I was just gonna say the dieting industry, because I'm a former professional yo-yo dieter, and it's like they never address the stress issue. They never say, hey, potentially you could be stressed. So for those women who've been there, done that, maybe potentially it's your stress that's causing the weight gain and your body's just really trying to protect you.
Yeah. And here's the thing, you need all the pieces, right? Because I also don't love the ones, and I hear women all the time, well, I went to my doctor and he just told me I'm stressed. Okay, but we're also not taking that as an excuse either, right? I'm not just chalking it up to I'm stressed, so I'll never be well. No, I'm stressed, so I'm going to learn the tools to adapt so I can be well in a stressful environment. That's the key. That's what needs to be taught to more people. And I love, it's one of my favorite things to teach the women I work with. Yes, we do lab testing. Yes, we do protocols. But we spend a lot of time teaching resources, tools, things that they can use in real life to keep the stress response low. And I will tell you, the women who actually do it consistently are the ones who get the absolute best results with their health transformations.
Yes, yes. And I can absolutely see that because that was me too. Stress to the max. And then
Me
my
too.
body had to yell at me to say, yo, you need to do something about this. So,
Me too.
so we talked about the adrenals and stress. We talked about, inflammation in foods that we eat and the endotoxins. What about if how does someone know if there's potentially maybe a chronic, infection kind of going on that's causing the weight gain?
Yeah. When it comes to immune system stuff, there is no substitute for proper testing. And that is something that you will hear me talk about all the time, because you can guess at a lot of things. There's a ton of protocols out there for everything under the sun. But if you don't know you need it, you probably shouldn't do it, especially something that's really harsh like that. So I always, my big things are, if you have chronic pain, chronic fatigue, if you know you have an autoimmune issue, if you have other symptoms going on in your body, it is always worth doing some functional testing, checking your gut function, checking for chronic infections, testing your hormones and your adrenals, and really get an accurate picture so you can find all the pieces to your puzzle. Because if your body has multiple symptoms going on at once, there are going to be some pretty big imbalances, right? More than just 20 minutes a day of breath work is going to fix, right? I wish it was that easy. I swear, like that would make everyone's life easier. But if your body is already telling you symptomatically that things are wrong, I highly suggest, to eliminate the frustration, the trial and error, the wasted money on things that you didn't need, do testing first and then get an individualized plan that's specific to you. That's really the best way to do it.
Awesome. So I'm curious, how do we kind of, you mentioned the tests, are there any kind of specific tests? You mentioned the stool, and I cannot remember ever a time of My doctor just saying, hey, let's check your stool.
Yep. So I will tell you all about that. But that is my platform. I was like, do you know how different? So everyone talks about the statistics, right? Diabetes is getting worse. Cancer is getting worse. I know for a fact if well checkups as a kid became checking for inflammation and checking gut function over the typical, stuff that we get at well checks, if women had to check their hormones and their adrenals at puberty, preconception, post-conception, if we did these things standard throughout our life, we would see a radical transformation in the insanity that's going on in our healthcare right now. That's what drives me nuts. And comparatively to what insurance is paying for, right? Surgeries and medications and all these things that are very expensive, comparatively, these functional tests are nothing compared to a lot of those procedures. I still don't understand why they're not part of every single person's journey. And that is my mission in life, is I want people to have access to the things that really keep them well, not all this weird stuff that doesn't actually have benefit. So agreed on that. Just side note. Insanity that most people haven't done this. But for me, if you are going to do 3 tests to start, I don't even know where to start. The 3 things I really feel like benefit most people. Number 1 is a stool sample, because we learn so much from the gut, right? Are there infections and overgrowths? But we can actually see the microbiome, which is responsible for hormone conversion and thyroid hormone conversion and detoxification and neurotransmitters. I mean, your gut does so many cool things. We should make sure it's working right. That's pretty important. But also looks at inflammation, it looks at digestion and absorption markers. So are you getting the benefit from the food you're eating? It looks for bacteria and yeast and parasites and all the things that could cause that weight gain. You get so much information from a comprehensive stool sample. I wish that was standard. Every human on the planet needs that. Truly, there's no one exempt, whether you're healthy or not. I check my kids every 2 years. They get stool samples like clockwork every 2 years, because I want to know what's going on in their body so I can keep them well long term. That one is probably my favorite. As far as a woman goes, proper, you will hear my word on that, proper hormone and adrenal testing, which is not a simple blood draw. If you have had your hormones tested and it was a one-time blood draw, your doctor didn't even ask you where you were in your cycle, you went for a quick blood draw, they told you all your levels were normal, you have not actually tested your hormones, right? It's like the least effective way. Or perhaps your doctor has said, oh, we don't test hormones because hormone testing is not accurate, right? A lot of people hear that. If you just do it through blood, it's really not. So I prefer dried urine, because you get a lot of additional pathways and information from there, or saliva is also a great option. But hormone and adrenal testing through urine or saliva, every woman should know what her hormones and adrenals look like. 1, to be your most vital, vibrant you, but 2, to make sure we're not at risk for some stuff that happens when we have hormone imbalances, right? Estrogen dominance, progesterone deficiency, they're all linked to things like cancers, dementia, Alzheimer's. Like, there's some big things that chronic long-term hormone imbalance create, yet so rarely are we looking at that piece of the puzzle, which for a woman is imperative to know that information. So I think that is a beautiful test for everyone to get. And then I personally am a huge fan of food allergies, only because I feel like it really saved my butt multiple times. And if you're going to eliminate foods, for most people, a great starting place is to get a simple list that's true for your body, right? Because there is a bajillion recommendations out there, right? What diet do you want to follow? What fad do you want to follow? Some of them are great. It's not that I don't like them, but if you're having a hard time staying that strict to something, start with a list of 10 or 12 things that your body says, hey, this isn't great for you. For me, my original list was very eye-opening. It was coffee that I lived on. It's like my favorite substance. Yeah. Chocolate. What woman doesn't love chocolate? Coconut. If you're a holistic person, you use coconut oil in, on, around everything. Lemons, limes, ginger. I mean, it was things that I had no idea were creating some of my chronic pain. And when I first started avoiding them, one of my big symptoms was my hands would hurt all the time. I thought I had RA. I got all the tested for different like autoimmune issues. I could not figure it out. And once I eliminated my food allergies, my hands stopped hurting. It was shocking. And then I accidentally got one of my food allergies one day, and the next day my hands hurt again. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, all of that was from eating chocolate and coffee. heartbreaking. But I love the simplicity of it, right? Food is a hard change for a lot of people. And there's a lot of emotion around changing food as well. But some people just need that black and white list, right? Like, here's where I start. This will remove inflammation from my body. This will get me closer to where I want to be. So I'm a big fan of it for that reason, simplicity's sake. But those are my 3 favorite ones.
So thank you so much, Dr. Shannyn. Is there anything you want to say, final thoughts or words of encouragement before we hop off?
I definitely think a lot of women, when I speak to them, it can be really deflating that I'm certain you've tried 100 things before, right? We all have all the things that didn't work, all the things that you put the effort into and didn't get the results you were expecting. I just want to encourage each and every one of you, the stuff Pamela teaches, the other speakers, the things that I do. I fully believe if you're still struggling, it's just because you're missing a piece, right? Listen to these very educated people, take the pieces you're not already implementing and keep going, right? You are not the oddity. You're not the one who it's not going to work for. You're not going to not get well. You're just missing one of these pieces. So listen with that intention. It's which one of these pieces am I missing? How can I implement this to get the next step in the right direction? Because it really is about one piece at a time, one foot in front of the other, because health is not a destination. It really is a journey. Like, you just have to keep walking that journey and learn more and more as you go. So I hope each and every one of you find that next piece somewhere in the summit and implement it and see the benefit from that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.